Welcome in part 2 with Trent Hancock here on the Cannabiz Conversation podcast. If you didn't check out part 1 and hear the origin story of this man, you need to go back, pause right now, go back and watch part 1. Pure fire, incredible story that's going to lead us into today's part 2, which is brought to you by Fat Nugs Magazine. Look, they're the best, okay? They are absolutely the coolest brand out there, global perspective of the cultures for both stoners and a bridge to the rest of the world. Very, very cool. Right now, they're on the, we're doing the Prisoners Edition. So they're doing that with Beard Brothers, Freedom Grow, Jailed for Weed. It's a big deal because no one should be in jail for a plant. Ever, ever, ever. Trent, as we get going here, you left us with the idea of Trent's future of cannabis. So where does it start, man? How do you want us to move forward as a culture and community?
You know, the way I see it is the way cannabis always was through the past was a lot of small circles. You know, you'd have your passionate grower that was supplying his circle, or her circle. You didn't have this model that's today, these mega corps. Like, for example, there's one corporation in California that has more grow canopy than the entire northern Cali, the triangle all combined doesn't even have as much canopy as one grow right now in Cali. And I just feel like it's the wrong route, because knowing what I know about growing, it's not just that they're big corporations, but the bigger they are, the harder it is to control bugs and mold. And it's that simple. You're going to have more complex issues. And at the end of the day, like if we were going to have a legal setup that complements what we came from, it's small business. It's everybody having their own logos, rocking their own stuff in their own community, people owning dispensaries in their community, not a corporation that owns 40 dispensaries in your state. I just, in my opinion, like the whole point, people talk about social equity and all these things, but if you don't have real equity and ownership and you are in a position to call shots in your company, you're really not in the position of, I guess, freeing the plant, and
Agreed. Yeah. The social equity thing, Trent, again, all right. So I'm a white guy from the Midwest in his 40s, okay? So I do not know the plight when we respond to social equity. So my comment is based purely in the idea that it seems like a way for investors to be able to get money or get people impressed by something. It doesn't seem like something that actually it's like diversification practices. These are all things we talk about. They're all things that you want to think happen, but do they really happen? I don't think so. And I'm not even in the affected group. And that's, I don't mean to sound insensitive. I just mean to say from a perspective of, does it work? Does it matter? It seems more like something you put on your PowerPoint deck than actually takes place.
Yeah, absolutely. And you see the argument right now with descheduling versus rescheduling to Schedule 3. And, to get into that, Schedule 3 will not release any prisoners. It's not going to get any felonies expunged. A lot of groups were celebrating misdemeanors being expunged, which didn't free one person from jail. I just feel like that's not something you should be satisfied walking away from the table from and celebrating personally.
So the trend is deschedule the answer then, or is there a bigger part of the debate that I'm missing?
I think descheduling is the answer, but mixed with small business, like a small business model. Like I personally believe in canopy caps. Like in Oregon, we had 10,000 square feet of canopy indoor flower that you were capped on, but then they allowed them to stack licenses. So you could you could own 20 licenses. So it made the cap totally pointless. And then in California, there was a license cap, 1 acre license cap in California, and they threw that off to the side, and now they got one farm as big as the entire Northern Cali original growers. To me, it's like spitting in their face. You know what I mean? And
insane.
Yeah, and so in my opinion, like we need to get to the point where people can own, where there's less canopy, so you can have more licenses, if that makes sense. If you're capping at 10,000 and really that company can only own 10,000 square feet, then you're going to have a lot more owners and a lot more small business, possibilities.
And that's the thing for me that so recently I got invited by my girl, Maddie Scanlon. She puts on cannabis events in Chicago. She's awesome. She's just a really good energy person. And living in a prohibition state, she had an event that was, north, close enough to the house where it was like, hour and 20 drive. Fuck it. Let's go. Let's support. Let's see. And I went up to, it was called Hemp Stock Farms. And so because of the whole, hemp thing, we can probably get into it if we have time, but living in a prohibition state, it's very frustrating. All day at my bowling league, every Wednesday night, I'm like Santa Claus. I have like a line of people being like, well, what's Delta 9? And I'm like, fuck, you didn't go to a dispensary. Quit using that word, or whatever, because there's this education gap. But anyways, when I walk up, man, little building, little wooden wheel out front, walk in, nice little showroom, products. Let's just forget the THC. That's not what I'm talking about. It felt exactly as you described. You walked into a small business that made their own batch, the cannabis drink. They had the sexy time oils. They had the sleepy time oils, the tincture. They had it all. I don't care about what it was, how it felt. And if that's how they can have it in their state, or I guess any state, it felt fucking cool. And so that, Trent, is where the debate gets hard for me with the THC hemp thing, is because in this world in Wisconsin, people are doing, as you say, they're trying to have small businesses around this loophole, but the education gap of consumerism is fucked, dude.
Yeah.
Fucked.
Well, and that's where it's hard because, you look at the problems with pesticides and things like that, and you're like, okay, there needs to be regulations on this, but that's why I'm for descheduling at the end of the day. When you talk about the hemp topic, if it was fully deschedulized and it was small businesses across the country, there would be no intoxicating hemp. I mean, people go straight for the cannabis, these small craft setups, and it would, yeah.
Of course, in my state, there would be no question what I would be doing, what I would be advocating for. And so, Trent, really quickly, and I know because, we have a good number of consumers that tune into the show, I guess, as far as the data is concerned. And so could you just, intoxicating hemp, Delta 9, Delta 8, could you just give folks like a quick hit on what that is versus what we're talking about with THC, or when they see that? Because again, we have a lot of the prohibition state folks here that watch. What are they getting versus what they think they might be getting with THC?
Okay, so I guess I'll start it out because both sides are gonna not like me at the end of it. So I'm gonna say both sides are full of shit. Like at the end of the day, the rec guys, legal license guys are full of shit. So are the hemp guys, and that comes from looking at how a lot of the hemp guys are doing this. They're backdooring rec cannabis, but they're using fake COAs, just like the fake COAs are used in legal states. Like the higher the THC, the better. They're using COAs the other way around to get it below 0.03 so they can ship across state lines. So as long as you got a lab that's willing to give you this COA, you can load up a van, drive it across the country, and when your cop pulls you over, you can show them a COA. My issue with that is poor people don't get that privilege. You know what I'm saying? If you get pulled over with a trunk full of weed, you're going to prison. But yet these company guys that are building these big entities, they can show their fake COA and go on and keep traveling without even a charge. And so in my personal opinion, I'm not that rec guy that's like, hey, we're well regulated and you're not, because rec regulations are horrible on testing, and there's pesticides all over rec cannabis, so they cannot say their weed is clean. On the flip note, these hemp guys are totally unregulated. They're using synthetics to create D8 and things like that. And so there's people coming into gas stations buying fully synthetic products that they think are natural hemp products. And, they're smoking pesticides up to 2,000 times safe levels, but they're also doing that in legal cannabis. So legal cannabis testing needs fixed. And these hemp guys, in my opinion, if you really want to sell cannabis in your state, go do it like we did with signs and signatures and get it passed and get good regulations that protect the consumer too. But most of all, protect home grow, because everybody should have the right to home grow. And the only
I wore it just for you because it is supporting your local farmer and your local home grow, because the way you talk about it online is the same passion that I have. My wife and I work, like I said, 75, 80 hours a week at a dealership. So when I got home at the end of a long day, it actually was the coolest fucking thing I could do was just go sit in my room, sit with a plant, trim a leaf, check for a bug, don't care, at the right time, get the binoc out, check on the trichomes, whatever. It didn't matter. It was just about having that release, that opportunity, and people should have it, man. And my wife, she had a green thumb. My buddy, when we first started, he was like, look, 50%, man. 50% clones are going to die. Don't get upset. It's fine. It happens. You're a starter. Don't be. Girl has like a 10% kill rate. So, but she can't kill anything. So now I'm like, well, hold on a second. I went from like a 10 grow to now I have a 30 grow because all the clones behind it, but it didn't matter. It never felt like too much. It never felt overwhelming. Maybe for people who watched my house when I had to leave, maybe it was overwhelming for them for whatever few days, but dude, it was so cool. Why do you think it's not just an automatic? Like, again, I know everyone doesn't like the alcohol discussion. Sorry, guys. I don't know anything else that's been in prohibition as recently as that, okay? So it's my only fucking comparative. But the question is, could you imagine people saying that they couldn't homebrew? Like, yeah. So I don't understand the difference.
Yeah, and that's just it. I mean, home brewing, like the Brewers Association is where I would love to build an organization modeled after that. That's small business beer. The brewers have their own issues, but at the end of the day, they have the Home Brewers Association that has a board seat on their board. And so you got home brewers that are represented in their discussions. And I think it's important to keep the honesty there, to make sure that the businesses aren't like, we're going to corner the market by making this move with our lobbyists and this, that, because you want your home grower to be like, oh, hell no, you're not going to do that. Like, and so like, for me, I think that.
Sorry about that, everybody. I don't know how that happened. My bad here. Here we go.
It's all good.
No, it's just, hey, in set, it happens. So keep moving. So, but the association, that's a big one. Trent, do you see anyone doing it locally? Have you seen any models like it?
No, we were toying with doing it a couple years ago, but we had to, when we moved back to Montana and sold our Oregon company, we had to wait for residency requirements to get our company back going. So I couldn't fund it, but we're now at that point where we're able to, start trying to invest in it. But we had like 300 companies that all wanted to be a part of it. So if we can get it kickstarted, we really want to do that. But at the end of the day, if I had a health condition, I want the right to home grow, because I don't want, even if I don't have a health condition, if I'm concerned about pesticides, the legal industry can't tell me that product's clean over a COA. So like, I should have the right to grow my own, so I know it's clean.
And as you said, the smaller, the easier to contain, right? And that's what we found. When you had 25 plants, it was like, okay, this is totally manageable. Everyone has their space. Nothing happens. It's a controlled environment. We're happy. Then you make the move to 50, and that's where other shit comes in. Or you take on a buddy who's like, sorry, dude, got to close my grow, take a plant. I'll never fucking do that again, Trent, because it ruined everything else that I had. Even though I incubated, tried to keep it out, at the end of the day, I had to bring it into the rotation. I couldn't just grow this fucking plant by itself, and it fucked up the rest of my grow. So dude, they're all there. And if people care or don't care, look, I had Kim Stuck on the show. I don't know if you know Kim, but Kim started writing regulations. She was the first regulator in Colorado. And so they used to call her like the hack, because she would just come in, see your regulation, and just cut your fucking grow down, just right in the middle of it. She just, nope, you're not, nope. And so she was writing that legislation around consumerism, as well as good business structure and all these other things. And that's what it gets me thinking about with you and this idea of the Home, Growers Association. Dude, anything that I can do to help support you on that message, I think it's super crucial. I think people who share a passion for an industry they don't need to unionize. Okay. I'm not advocating for that. Don't fucking DM me about that. But I am saying that we should definitely come together and have voices in bigger discussions. And the problem with cannabis, as I've seen it from the outside looking in, is that as much as we'd like to think that we're organized, we are not. There is no one pulling the rope the same way, like booze and guns and all the people who spend the money on Capitol Hill to do what they do. We just aren't that way. I mean, no offense to Normal, but it's been a long time. If we were better at this, I feel like that conversation wouldn't feel so alone. So Trent, please continue with that concept, man. I think it could be very important.
Yeah, I mean, and that's where a lot of the infighting comes from, because when you look at an ideal situation, where you have a lot of small licenses, you have home grows, all those things a lot of the big corporate players don't want, and they're the ones paying the lobbyists. So it becomes a grassroots argument against the lobbyists, and then you'll have the people in the middle that don't understand what the fight's about, and they're like, can't we all just get along and we're all on the same side of the rope? And it's like, honestly, like we're pushing for two different worlds. When you have like certain individuals speaking at cannabis events saying there's only going to be 5 companies left at the end, and then you got other people like me that want thousands of companies at the end. We're just too far apart, and it's one of us is going to have to, give a little bit or whatnot.
Yeah, and I mean, typically for me, again, I grew up, like I said, I grew up in the car business. The car business is the biggest business you can get to before you get to corporation. It's from a taxation, from a revenue perspective, the volume of work that a car dealership does in a given city is right up there, right before corporation, but they're owned by families and they're fucking legacies, Trent. Okay. And that's how I grew up. That's what I know. But I'm watching my industry now 25 years in, and consolidation is a real motherfucker, Trent. And I would say to everyone out there that I think you and I would both agree that if we could start with all the legacy small businesses, and 25 years from now, you could start talking about consolidating just based on market conditions in life, then so be it. Yeah. But that's 100-year-old fucking industry. Yeah. So that I'm talking about. And so we're not even there. We're not even infants in the world. I think we should start with the biggest volume and work our way down to see what actually models out, because I think we've gone too specific too quickly. And I think the only way to go is corporation, Trent. Who can afford a permit right now on a regular THC grow? You and I put our money together. Yeah, sure, we could do it, but that's about it. You know what I mean? Like, you tap yourself out to give yourself a business that can't start making money for how many months, Trent? Right? So
yeah, I mean, and you can see the difference in certain states. Like some states, you can get a license for a couple $100,000, which is still a lot of money. But yeah, but then you look at certain states like Florida, you better have millions and millions to pull that off.
But there's only one person that has that, Trent. Is big corporations. That's why it's all a self-fulfilling fucking prophecy. Because it doesn't have another route if the people in charge of those legislations, in charge of writing those things, are the people who are on the boards of these corporations or the shadow corporation or whatever. And I hate being conspiratorial in that way. I'm not like, oh God, the cabal is running cannabis like that. At the end of the day, it's big corporations. That's what it is. And it's people who saw an opportunity to seize on it and take away the small business entity of the whole thing. And I'm with you, dude. Small businesses is what keeps this country moving. I was just in 3 of them today before I was here with you. 2 of them selling CBD products and hemp drinks. And I just want to take them off the shelf and wish I could go somewhere and test them just to know what was actually in them, Trent, because I think the whole beverage thing is just getting even messier than the whole fucking, because you can smoke weed and know, but if I asked you to drink weed and know, would it be the same for you?
Yeah, no, you would never know because you can cover up anything with that. And I mean, at least you're not smoking it. I guess that's probably a better thing. And
it is. And that's what I tell all my friends. You got to buy hemp derived or whatever in the state of Wisconsin, just make it a beverage. Just don't, whatever. But know that whatever you think is in there probably isn't even fucking in there. But don't worry about it. And now grocery stores have THC sections. It's wild because they call them THC beverages. It's the weirdest thing, Trent. It's so consumerism fucked up,
Yeah, it's interesting, man. And when you look at a lot of the people in the hemp industry, I understand their opinions on certain things and them pushing the limits, but at the end of the day, there's also highly organized gangs in it that I've never seen in cannabis. Being in the underground, growing up as a kid, all the way till now, the new modern organized crime that's involved is unlike anything I've ever seen. And that's a whole nother topic, but we got into it over our reservations, cannabis law with those guys. And that's how I found out about the whole hemp, COAs, the travel across state line stuff. There's some crazy stuff going on in underground cannabis, but it's directly tied into the hemp stuff.
And again, that's where I can appreciate a regulated market. In that way, you will push out black market. But then, and again, has it happened, Trent? No, right? California data tells us otherwise. I know how I, get what I get. And a lot of people I know how they get what they get. And so, yeah, it's there. I think we had Joe from Wanna Brand, CEO, on last year on the season. And he had basically said, look, we thought we were going to score the Chardonnay mom, the soccer mom. That never fucking happened. And it didn't happen because soccer mom's not going to the dispo. Yeah. She's not doing that. She can't do that. What happens where I live? Guess what? Soccer mom's into the THC beverage, or what she thinks her and her girlfriends are cracking on a Friday night. And then they'll call me Saturday and go, I feel terrible. I'm going to throw up. Oh my God, this is gross. And I'm like, I told you, like, don't tell me you got a weed beverage in the gas station. Yeah. You're fucking lying to me and yourself. So please stop.
For sure. Right?
So, Trent, as we close this out with your sort of envisioned perfectness, obviously everyone gets out of prison, Trent, in your world. Does that happen with descheduling, Trent? Do you know enough about the topic to know?
Okay, so I look at it a couple different ways. Like, I think all home grower quantities that, like in Oregon, 8 pounds or less is no longer a felony. So anybody that had 8 pounds or less, their felony is getting expunged. That kind of compromise I could understand with freeing prisoners, for example, because most prisoners, when you look at them, if they went to prison over cannabis and you look at the details, I got my felony for 2 ounces. And if you look at, say, anybody 8 pounds and under, that's almost everybody. That's like 95%. And I would rather everybody, obviously, but I still think that there are certain organized gangs, like, for instance, that are involved in human trafficking, that they should. If you Google Navajo cannabis raid, for example, you'll find, where these Chinese immigrants were being abused, and they were actually guarding their greenhouses with AKs to not let them leave and wouldn't pay them. People like that should get a special kind of sentencing. You know what I'm saying? Like, like that's not just weed growers, like your happy hippie or just homeboy. You know what I mean? Like those guys are gangsters, and like. And the way they are abusing these immigrants, and this is happening all over the country in cannabis grows right now, and nobody's doing anything about it. And so, like, to me, I'm like, okay, I want all the people that believe in cannabis that got caught with 6-7 Ps, something like that. I can understand that. But if you got caught with 500 Ps and a bunch of human trafficking victims and all this stuff, throw the book at that guy.
You gotta stay where you're at on that one. Trent, really quickly, and I mean, up to you to share. Doesn't matter to me. But 2 ounces. Do you spend time in jail/prison for this?
I mean, I went to jail.
County jail is no fucking joke. So I'm not trying to lighten that up by any means.
Yeah, I went to jail for a few weeks. You know what I mean? And it was a probation violation because I got caught smoking cannabis on probation. And I got caught with 3/8 of weed and that's what made my felony permanent, because it was a deferred felony. It's the only time I've ever been in trouble. So the first thing I got was a deferred felony possession. And so that would have been off my sentence if I made it through probation. But then I got caught with 3/8 and got a misdemeanor possession, which made my felony permanent. And so the only thing I've ever been in trouble for is weed charges. You know what I mean? Like,
I know. And it's not a long list, Trent. It's something that you have to deal with, and you have to mark down, in your application process, which I have a feeling you won't be filling out any applications anytime soon for jobs, my man, given your take on corporations and my take on corporations for sure. You've been more than gracious with your time. As we wrap it up, what do you want to leave the community with, and Trent's sort of final thoughts?
Well, I think it's important, if you believe that this plant can help people, to find other activists that believe in the same and team up with them and make sure that we don't have a big corporate outcome. Like, the worst thing that could happen to cannabis is having 5 or 6 companies left at the end and massive failures of small family businesses. I don't care if you weren't in cannabis your whole life like I was. Like, to me, it's not like, oh, I'm more culture dominant than you because I've been in it my whole life. I don't look at it like that. If you're a small family business and you're trying to make money for your family and you're trying to give people clean cannabis, welcome in open arms. Fat Nugs, Dustin always talks about how the cannabis community accepts us all with open arms. That's us, But when you come in and you say, hey, there's only going to be 5 left and we're going to push all you guys out, you're starting the beef. You know what I'm saying?
And again, somebody brought you to a show to speak that way, right? So like there's a bigger issue. And so look, we've just been going to these shows as press recently. It just happened in the last 8 months. And I've been going to automotive shows my whole life. So there's a comparative for me. And it's just funny, man. Just some of the things you hear, you walk past and you're like, that's never going to fucking happen, or whatever. People just blow so much smoke up everyone's ass when it comes to those things. And I think you talk about activists, let's find each other, right? That's what this show is for. That's what Trent's online for. Find these people, connect, comment. Don't just look around, say something. Have an opinion, get on board, ask for education. Trent's more than happy to give it. Again, when you look online, you follow people. I like to call it education through entertainment. And then that's how I take Trent. That's how I first started taking Dustin, Damian Solomon, any of these guys. You look at it through education of what they know how to do, and you learn from it. Trent, man, you've been wonderful. This is way better than I could have even imagined, man. Thank you so much for spending the time with me today.
Well, hey, I appreciate you having me on, Sean, and I'm sure we'll have to do it again sometime.
We certainly will. And when I make my journey out to Montana, you will be the first person that I call to ensure that I'm headed in the right direction. That's for sure, man. Thank you again to Dustin and the Fat Nugs team. They're the best. They're a global perspective of cannabis and stoner culture. They're a bridge to the rest of the world. And like Trent's saying, the community itself is what comes together there. And that's what's fun. Right now, Fat Nugs, Beard Brothers, Freedom Grow, and Jailed for Weed are all a part of the Prisoners Edition. Get involved. Costs as little as $250. And more importantly, no one should be in jail for a plant. As always, we like to tell you, remove the stigma, uplift the plant. That's also from our man, Dustin. Thank you guys so much. We'll see you for episode 2 next week.
Can't wait to watch that last Prisoner Project magazine. Read that. That's going to be sweet.
Dude, it's going to be awesome. The last Prisoner Project. Just some of the visuals that Dustin's put out, dude. It's going to be so much fun. Everybody should be checking it out. Trent, thanks again, man. We appreciate it.